Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest edition of the Empower Half Hour, coming to you from Southwest Wyoming. I'm Bradley W. Skinner.
And I am Frank Roneski from Southern New Jersey. Woohoo! No snow today here. How about you?
It is. It's getting cold over here. I'm getting chilly. I'm not ready for this cold weather, and it's snuck up on me. I wasn't prepared, but everything else is going great. It's wonderful. Life is good.
Somewhere in Wyoming, they did get a couple feet, though, didn't they? Did I see
Yeah.
that up in the mountains, maybe?
Yep. Yep. Yes. Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Well, Frank and I are going to be solo today on our show. Darren Peppard is unavailable today as he has some speaking engagements that he is currently involved in and therefore not able to join us. So we actually have a special episode for you today. For those of you that are tuning in, please feel free to send us your comments because we are going to be fielding questions that have been sent to us. We've got a couple topics and questions that have been asked. But if you have any questions that you would like to send us right now live during the show, please feel free to do so because we will then field those questions and talk about them right here on the show. So, Frank, you ready to dive into the fastest half hour of your week?
Absolutely. And we were talking a little pregame, being the big Marvel guy that you are, and my daughter. We talked a little bit about that last week, but big Marvel movie coming out next week, huh?
It is, and if we're gonna, jump right there, really any Marvel movie I'm excited about. I love the storytelling, even if the movies themselves may not be, the greatest. It may not be any award-winning films. I love the storytelling aspect, and that's something that I enjoy with all of them. And they're just fun. I like being able to go and just enjoy a film. It's a nice time for me to unwind, to relax. A lot of times it'll either be on a date night with my wife Melissa, or even the last one went to see Venom. Let There Be Carnage with my daughter Hannah, and it was just a nice time for us to go out, and we really enjoyed it. So I'm really looking forward to the Eternals to see how that goes. And it's not getting the greatest reviews at the moment, but I don't care. I'm going to go and enjoy it and see what I think.
I think I'm there with you, buddy. I mean, even the Marvel is it's coming in layers, and from what I saw today, I was working out, watching the news at the same time. This is the next layer,
Mm-hmm.
and they were interviewing Angelina Jolie and Selma Hayek, and they were both talking about the diversity of this movie. That it was there. You go. When you look at that family portrait, you can see almost representation from everyone. And one of the goals of this movie, according to them, is that you can see yourself being a superhero. You can see yourself being an astronaut. You could see yourself saving the world, albeit in a different type of way. Because I don't think my outfit, my costume's popping up right now. However, yours may be, but you know,
Yeah, and I think that's
DJ
great.
Porn
We,
Star.
we we've talked about that before, the importance of representation, and I think it can't be stressed enough. I think it's something that not only in films but in advertising, in marketing, in ad campaigns, and it's something that it's important. I really truly believe that, and it can't be stressed enough how much value that really can have, and it can really impact people in both negative and positive ways. But one thing that really showed me the importance of representation was we have a mutual friend who has a daughter that has Down syndrome, and at one day in walking through Target, one of the promotional ad programs for an end cap on one of the aisles featured a model with Down syndrome. And this little girl saw that and ran up and like, hugged the display because she was able to see somebody like her that was doing a job that a lot of times people may not say, oh, that's not for you. But to have a model uh, that was just, it was such a great moment. And so anytime where we're seeing more representation in films, in stories, in TV, I'm 100% for it. Even if it's not a show that I necessarily would watch because maybe it doesn't cater to me, and that's okay. If it's catering and addressing needs and concerns of those that it is for, then we need more of it.
And that's an excellent point. And a lot of times, people, I've heard them, whether it's my students, whether it's my neighbors, not for me, or they were told, not for you. Well, I think this kind of eliminates that barrier, tearing down walls, and who knows what you're capable of if you lose your voice. But this gives people a voice, and that's what we've been preaching since episode one: is that relationship building, giving people a voice, especially our students. And
I do wish they
speaking of
would have
that,
released the movie earlier. I would have liked to seen it be before Halloween. Just and
uh,
again, it may say it's for a marketing ploy, but I would have liked to seen that because it would have allowed for a lot more youth out there to have different costumes that they could dress up as, that they'd have that representation they're seeing on screen. They could say, "Hey, I want to be like that person because I'm seeing me up on that screen."
and any ideas what you're going to be this Halloween?
The goatee is going away tomorrow night, and I'm going to be dressing up as Ted Lasso.
No way.
I'll be
No
rocking
way.
the mustache.
That is one I haven't seen it yet. I don't have Apple TV,
Oh,
but I'm sure somebody in my house does.
it is worth it. It's worth, in my opinion, it's worth getting Apple TV just for Ted Lasso. It is, in my opinion, the best written show on television right now.
Nice.
It is
Nice.
that good. Good positive messages. It's incredible what it teaches about. The show has so much heart and comedy. It's one of the few shows, really, for me, since Scrubs, to where I could watch a show where I could be just in pain laughing, and then 10 seconds later, I'm in tears because it just has so much heart. And Ted Lasso gets me every single episode.
A good belly laugh helps all of us out. I mean, plus it's a nice ab workout. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but whew, it
It's
really
true.
helps the abs go. And speaking,
Well,
you know what I was thinking of coming to mind, belly laugh was Mork and Mindy. Now I don't know how
I
old you were
yes,
when
I
that
grew
came
I
out,
grew up Southern
but
California watching Mork and Mindy. I love that show.
that was brilliant.
It really
And a lot
was.
of that, Robin Williams did ad lib. It wasn't even on the script, but they would give him an opening, and he would take it in a direction that, well, that guy was a comedic genius, among other things. Even
Absolutely.
his dramatic roles uh, really gave some credibility to who he was, and kind of laid out there some groundwork for a lot of other people in his field.
And as much as I absolutely love, and we can talk about Robin Williams for a minute here because of a couple reasons. Number one, absolute comedic genius. If you see what he did again, just even the voice work from Aladdin, to what he did with Mrs. Doubtfire, to Mork and Mindy. You look at all that compilation, but then for me to have his two, in my opinion, best acting performances, ones that I still watch probably annually because I learn something from it every time as a performer as well as a teacher. Good Will Hunting,
Yes.
yeah, I think is his absolutely best performance. Good Will Hunting is a masterpiece of storytelling. And then, of course, Dead Poet Society. Absolutely just my two favorite Robin Williams films. And the other reason of why I bring up Robin Williams is this question was actually asked to me by a student the other day, and just casual conversation. We're kind of in between classes, and they said, "Hey, Mr. Skinner, what?" I think it's because of instigated with recent news with celebrities, and every time there's a celebrity death, someone like, "Oh, well, how did that impact you, or how did that affect you?" So they just ask, "What celebrity death hit you the hardest?" And for me, it was Robin Williams. Um, that was I had just recently come back to teaching after having left the career field, and it really got when he passed, that hit me pretty heavily because I realized so much of what he had been going through and that he was hiding with his emotions and mental health were a lot of the same things that I was doing. And it
Yes.
really was a wake up call for me to get professional help in a way that I hadn't before because I didn't feel I needed it. And so having Robin Williams, losing that great talent, really was a wake up call.
I think prior to people like Robin Williams exposing himself to being a human being, unless you had something severe, you were at the other end of schizophrenia. I'm throwing that out there just because most people are familiar with that word. Then people weren't bothered with it, or they didn't take it in a serious manner, or they said a famous line, and I've said it myself: "Suck it up." Certain things like that, because unless you've actually experienced it, and I think we all have to a certain extent over the last couple of years, you may not have that. You have that implicit bias
Yeah.
because you don't know, or you haven't experienced it, or you never had those feelings yourself. So it's coming to light, and I think we're just trying to capture the information that we need to run schools, to run organizations in a certain fashion. So at least, um, hopefully, we'll be able as educators to do it in a thought provoking way where that label isn't a stigma anymore.
Good point. So here's another question that we have from one of our viewers, uh, and I'm intrigued to see what your response is going to be. So, of any um, TV or film educator, who do you identify with the most, or who do you admire the most?
TV or film educator.
That's a great
Wow.
question.
Uh, well, you know what? You stuck this Robin Williams things in my mind. This And when you were going over the movies, probably as a family, one of our top 10 movies is Mrs. Doubtfire. And, we probably watch that 2 or 3 times a year. We probably recite the lines before the lines come up on the screen. I mean, but if you look at his list of movies, and even on the television screen, he likes to have fun, and who doesn't like to have fun? And you see, he brings everybody in to his arena. So I wouldn't say that's not my answer, but when you threw that out there, it stuck in my mind. But you know what? I'm going to have to go with Rocky Balboa, Sylvester Stallone.
Rocky is, which is interesting, is because I don't think that we, at least in the first several films, because it was so much about Rocky as the main character, we didn't see the fact of just how good of a teacher that he actually is. But once we got Creed,
Mm.
that was that was a great film, a very underrated film, in my opinion. I'm sorry, Sylvester Stallone should have won Best Supporting Actor for Creed.
And how about, well, I mean, the original Rocky, six Oscars, including best film.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I like about that whole story is the story behind the story. Now
Oh
you
yeah,
have somebody, an unknown, that breaks into this circle. And at the time in the 70s, I mean, I wasn't in that circle, but according to things that you hear these days, it was very hard to crack open that nut. Meaning, to get into an arena, there were a lot of talented actors, directors, film screenwriters, but they couldn't get into that inner circle.
mm-hmm.
And for him to do what he did, and I don't know what that budget is, but I guarantee if you look it up, it's maybe 1/100,000th of what they spend on a movie these days.
Yep.
But he went for it, and he went for it in a way that, uh, well, I guess the rest is history. But the story, I mean, because I'm so familiar with Philly, and the Philly jargon and the Philly uh, scene, is that I ran up and down those same streets. I ran up and down the street by the Italian market, and the cheesesteak places, and the railroad tracks, and up the art museum steps. I mean, if I don't run up and down the art museum steps at least once a year, I feel empty. and
Uh,
and that has to be that has to be one of the Empower Half Hour goals, I think, is to be able to do that sometime. I mean, now that things are opening up, we have to make that one of our scenes. We
Absolutely. Yeah, we do.
new intro.
Yeah, that'd be good. So I think that is honestly, I think it's because of the legacy of the Rocky films and for how long that Stallone has played that character. I think that's one of the reasons why it hindered him in
Mm.
winning Best Supporting Actor. Is I think people overlooked just how good his performance was because it looked so natural, but it's because he's been doing it for so long.
And
And he really should have won for Creed. I mean, I will die on that hill that he should have won Best Supporting Actor.
hey, I'm with you. And another thing, in one of the Terminator movies, there's a scene that goes by in the future where on the marquee it says Rocky 10 as a joke, like, yeah, like it's ever going to be Rocky 10. What are you kidding me? Yo, Adrian.
That's
Now, how
awesome.
about you?
So I
How
would
about
say
you,
for
Bradley?
me, this was again one of those reasons of why I actually, even as a younger kid, kind of thought, hey, teaching could be kind of cool. Education might be where I need to go, and and it was because I watched a TV series that featured it for me just the most impactful, insightful educator, and it was a wonderful show called Boy Meets World with their
Oh, yeah.
wonderful principal, Mr. Feeney.
No kidding.
As much as interesting though, as I wanted to model my style, my teaching off of Mr. Feeney, I never ended up being a Feeney. I'm more of a Mr. Turner. I was the guy with the long hair and riding the motorcycle to school. That's I'm Mr. Turner, but I love Mr. Feeney. I think he is for me. He's the quintessential educator that we have in TV and film.
I think I'm more of a Mr. Cotter.
And
Mr.
another
Cotter.
great show.
That
That's
was
good stuff.
yeah. If you
We'd
want
love to hear from
another
our viewers.
actor,
Please tell us who some of your favorite fictional educators are. We'd love to hear from you.
what if you see, if you look at the career of John Travolta,
Oh yeah,
speaking of, coming out, he dropped out of high school, uh, landed a part in Greece. I don't know what part on Broadway, and look at his acting career as it has progressed. And one of the shows back in the '70s, it used to go back to back. It was Happy Days, and then Welcome Back, Cotter. So we would be right there in front of the TV for those two shows. And I wouldn't say that I admire that teaching style, but as we've said on every episode, he was able to build those relationships with a low performing student population, which is something that we all still strive for, is to build those relationships. So that some components of his teaching methodologies, I guess I would say, kind of hit home with me. And and all the ones that you mentioned. And what blows me away too is some of these well, they are actors, they are Academy Award winning actors that portray educators and have never actually been an educator. Have you? I had the opportunity at a Johnston's Renaissance conference when my oldest daughter was 12 and she's 25 now, to meet Aaron Gruwell, the Freedom Writers. So if you've ever seen that
yeah,
movie, again, building relationships in an impossible situation, and some of the story is the movie is a little sensationalized, but what she did was, hey, I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, and either are you in my class. So that type that type of educator, I think we've all strived to be. As a matter of fact, when she got done speaking, she was the closing keynote at the Johnson's Renaissance Conference, and she was selling her book. I wanted to get it autographed, but I also wanted to be first in line. So I I saw her come off stage. My daughter and I said, "Frankie, stick with me," and we timed it right, or some people would call it stalking, and we were the first in line, I got a great picture. I'll have to show you of Frankie and I getting our book signed from Aaron Gruwell. But another one, Sidney Poitier. How about Blackboard Jungle? I don't know if you've ever seen that movie or remember that movie.
Yes.
To
Oh,
Sir with Love. I mean, there are a bunch of them.
there are. Chase Chatfield has a great one of his favorites here. Mr. Miyagi.
Oh, whoa.
What a wonderful teach. I will tell you, I was so skeptical when they said they were going to be making a new TV series of continuing the story of the Karate Kid, and when they announced that Cobra Kai, I was like, this, why? Stop it! Don't you dare ruin this story. And I kind of watched the first season just to see how bad they were going to mess things up, and I loved it. It was so good. I'm so hooked on that show. I
Well, it
can't
was
wait. Can't wait for the next season.
the first season was actually on YouTube. It was on the
Yeah.
YouTube channel before it went to Netflix. But
Yep.
you talk about Miyagi. I think I subliminally put that in Chase's mind when I mentioned Happy Days.
Oh, hey, there you go. Nice connection. Very good.
Arnold's.
Yep. Oh, so and I think I love looking at and analyzing these the fictional educators to see how they're written, how they're performed. Because a lot of times we get teachers, they're just almost really comic relief. They're not the inspirational educators. They're like, they're Mr. Hand from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, um, or Mr. Belding, again, comic relief for Saved by the Bell. So they're not, but even then they have their moments though, and I think it's kind of fun to see some of those different characters, even if just the notable ones. But I think there's some great coaches, some great films out there that show the coaching side and how a coach can really impact their players for a lifetime.
How about another top 10 movie in our house? School of Rock. Jack Black.
Oh, Dewey Finn.
Family.
Love Dewey Finn. What a great teacher.
Dewey Finn. How
The
about
teacher,
that?
a great teacher who wasn't a teacher, but,
Hey,
but became one.
composer.
Yep. I love School of Rock, and a great musical. I was actually able to. We produced School of Rock. We were the first school in Wyoming, the first theater in Wyoming, actually to produce School of Rock, and
Nice.
it was a blast.
I
Absolutely
saw it
awesome.
On Broadway. I saw it several
It's
years
kind of
ago.
surprising. A lot of people think it's going to have, follow exactly the movie, and it
Right.
follows it pretty well, but it strays a little bit and adds a little bit more depth to the kids. They have that beautiful song where the students are singing,
Mm.
if you would only listen, and they're talking about how their parents just aren't taking the time to listen to the struggles of kids today. And that number was so heavy. A lot of our audience even commented, they're like, we didn't expect that show was going to be, quite that emotional. And it was
If
just
you
wonderful.
Now, if you go back to the movie, first of all, the movie soundtrack has to be one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
best soundtracks of all time. It's one of the few movie soundtracks that I do have in my collection. Another thing is that l- letting the students be who they are. If you look at that whole collection of, some of them would consider themselves misfits at the time, but I forget the character. It was one of uh, the guy that played keyboards, the Asian student, when he says, "I am cool," one of my favorite lines from the
Yeah.
movie.
Now, we've got one more of my favorite teachers that we haven't mentioned yet, but I'm pretty sure you always keep just slightly off camera to your right. Where's your Yoda? There he is.
Yes, sir.
Yoda is a great teacher. Another good example.
And
Good
and
lessons. Good lessons.
who would have thought? And perception is reality. And when Luke is looking for Yoda in the swamp, on, was he Dagobah? Was that the planet?
Hmm.
And he's asking Yoda, "Where's Yoda? I'm looking for Yoda." Perception is a little tiny green man is not going to be this great Jedi warrior.
Mhm.
Hello, do or do not.
There is no try. Great lessons. That's some good stuff. So I mean, I love. We could do easily a whole series just on watching, a show and then coming back and talking about the educational lessons from it. There's
Absolutely.
certainly some good ones. I love it. Good stuff. I mean, not even getting into. I mean, obviously you got Star Wars, but boy, Harry Potter, some great teachers there as well. Some uh, wonderful options there. Good stuff.
And the Hobbit. I mean, come on, we could go on and on.
Yep, it's really true. Awesome. So I did have another question. I know we're going to be getting close to our time here, but that's all right. This other question that's we had a viewer that was asking is, do you or have you had experience with, or do you recommend Genius Hour, passion projects, 20% time, whatever you might call it, kind of that Google style of allowing students um, 1 day a week, basically, of your classes to work on whatever they want to learn or do. What do you think about that?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
You know what? We tried that in our advisories when I was principal at the middle school, and different grade levels did it differently. So the more successful ones, it was a trial and error to find out exactly how you were going to do it with your students. So that would be my suggestion, is that if you're doing it, to maybe come up with a couple different ways to do it, because you want those kids to take calculated creative risks, and you want them to follow their passion, and you want them to be inventors and poets and writers, but sometimes they need a little bit of a direction. So they could say, okay, my passion is this, but they don't know how to get there. So you have to give them a little direction, and point them towards an end result. And we saw some phenomenal projects, anywhere from developing y- creating their own music, to creating their own inventions that created power, et cetera, et cetera. So I highly recommend it, but you can do it a couple of different ways. We did it as part of our advisory, which was, I guess you would say, a separate class every other Friday, or you can make it part of the curriculum. So there are some decisions, and sometimes those decisions are a little bit trial and error. But take it a further level, is allow the educators to follow their passions and do a little bit for themselves with the Genius Hour. See
Mhm.
what you can come up with there too. And I've seen some phenomenal things from that end as well.
Could be a great opportunity for some professional development
Yes.
rather than putting all of your teachers in one room and giving everybody the exact same professional development, whether they need it or not. Because, maybe your art teachers don't need the same professional development as your math curriculum instructors. So,
Or team them together, the math and the art,
and
the
give them
visual arts with
something to
the
work
math teachers.
together in creating that's
Mm.
beneficial for both. So yeah, I think there's definitely some possibilities. I used to do a 20% time. I took 1 day a week where I would allow my students to work on, and I will say for my theater classes, it's fantastic
Sure.
because they're going to be able to say, hey, I want to work on something that might be outside of the standards, but I'm still going to be gaining something, and they usually tend to be something very specific towards a future career that they're interested in. So I've had some students that are like, I really want to learn more about um, applying latex prosthetics in stage makeup, which is just something I don't have that expertise in. So it's not something I'm going to be able to really teach them. But in learning their own, they end up finding some incredible tutorials, a lot of wonderful videos. They reach out to other professionals, and then they're gaining that information and in turn end up teaching me things that I'm able to then share with the next school year. And that's incredible. When the students become the teachers and are then
Mm.
sharing what they've learned, that's what I think some of those passion projects really can be about.
And that's an excellent idea. And when you reach out, you never know who's going to reach back. For instance, if you contacted somebody in the industry that actually did that for a living, and you say, "Oh, this person is never going to answer," and they do.
Yeah, you never know unless you ask.
True.
So I mean, and really, it's what's the worst? What's the worst that can happen is they say no.
And
Maybe they don't write back, but if they don't write back, you never hear from them. That's one thing. But if I reached out to somebody in a field that I really admire and respected, if I don't hear from them, okay. But even if they wrote back to say sorry, I'm not available, I'm like they still wrote back. That's awesome.
right, exactly.
I'm still gonna be telling everybody. I'm like, guess what? I got an email from so and so. I don't have to tell them what it said. I'm
Mhm.
still just gonna be happy they actually wrote
Yeah,
back. That's huge.
absolutely. Well, I think we're winding down to our final thoughts, and I have
Boy, we
something I've
are,
been
huh?
holding back on all day that is related to you. Not only, well, two things actually. First thing, Bradley W. Skinner and DJ Phony Starks Industry won an award this week. And when it's your turn, I'm going to let you tell exactly what that award was. But it goes back to one of the things that was promoted heavily during the pandemic, and that's small business. Another thing is I was reaching into a drawer today. And for those of you that know me, know that I am a magician. My first career choice at the University of San Francisco was magic. So anyway, I reached into this drawer and I found this deck of cards. And I was thinking that wouldn't it be amazing, Bradley, if you thought of a card? I want you to think of a card. All right, do you have it?
I got it.
How amazing is this that I reached into the drawer and found this? How about that? And I've been waiting to show you all day, but I'm out. Those are my final thoughts. So thank you. Peace and love always win.
Well, thanks for the shout out. Yeah, as Frank mentioned, so a couple of years ago, obviously for quite some time, I had been DJing just as a solo performer, but then officially on January 1st of 2019, licensed and started an official small business called Phony Stark Industries. Great name, huh? And our specialty is in weddings. You can check out our website at phonystarkindustries.com. And that's what the award was actually for. It was a recognition of small businesses. And specifically, we received an award for our website in being the best general branding for a wedding entertainment website, which is really, I mean, it's cool. It's nice
It is.
to be recognized and to definitely say, hey, we put in a lot of effort into this side business that we run. And the main thing is, my wife and I, we always look back in our wedding day, as wonderful as it was such a great thing for us to be together, to have that union. And but the whole day itself really wasn't great. A
Mhm.
lot of problems, a lot of hiccups, a lot of headaches. Um,
Right.
Things just kind of were pretty terrible. We didn't care that things were terrible because we just loved each other and we were happy with what we were doing. But as we looked back, we're like, wow, we could have done so much better. So when we created this business, that was our goal, was to make sure that all of our clients were able to have the wedding that we wished we would have had.
Nice.
And so it's nice, yeah. So yeah, definitely check out our website. See what you think. And
And the website URL would be
so again, phonystarkindustries.com.
nice.
Thanks for tuning in to today's special edition with Dr. Frank Rudneski and me, Bradley W. Skinner, as we talked about some and great questions. So thank you for those who sent those in. Please, if you have additional ones, message us, email us, hit us up on Twitter, and send us some of those questions. And we would love to be able to feature them in some upcoming shows. So thanks so
Sounds good.
much, and
See you
we will
next
see you
week.
next week.